And they're like, "Where's the picture of Trevor?" And I'm like, "Trevor should quit racing and start working dirt bike tests full time and do more work."
Oh,
And
nice.
evidently, that's a mean thing to say. It's Tech Talk Taco Tuesday time, live from Pahrump, the Valley of the Dirt People. This is show number 220. Does anybody remember? 226, maybe. So that means we've answered your motorcycle and motorcycle product related questions that many times. And D-Ron Moyer is here waiting for Jimmy's nuggets of wisdom. So I think I'm going to try to drop some of those nuggets of wisdom. I like to call them nuggets of knowledge. When you have a question, you just put it up in the chat and we see it and it goes up across the screen right there. And we will do our best to answer those questions. 9 out of 10 times we can do it without referring to a reference manual. And that is what we're here for. At your service tonight on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. And I do have a special guest. He's none other than 1980s 500cc national champion. He's coming back for round 2. Chuck's son. Welcome to Tech Talk.
Hey, Jimmy. Glad to be here. I'm pretty pumped.
Is your mic on? Yeah, your mic's on. Okay.
Mic's on?
Oh, you know what? I probably should have actually put you on the camera like that. Actually, you got your own camera. Check this out. That's the Chuck cam.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's a delayed reaction. That's me a while ago.
Right. Yeah. You just sat down. So we're all good.
Okay. Good.
We're professionals. I usually like to start the show with a lot of technical difficulties because I don't know how to do this stuff that well. But this show would not be possible without the help of some sponsors. Of course, Yamaha is always helping us out there, keeping the lights on here at Dirt Bike Test. Yamaha, makers of the YZs, the WRs, the FXs. I personally really like the YZ 2-strokes, Chuck, because they're simple. I have a YZ 125. I was actually thinking about going and racing it at an SRA Grand Prix this weekend if I go back to California. I could do that, or I could ride a Triumph 250 test bike we have, or I could just not go racing, and then that'd be the easiest thing to do.
We could go to Idaho and play ride in the mountains. They've got fresh rain. So where there is rain this time of year, you got good dirt.
You go.
So that might be something. Yeah.
That's a good idea. That's probably better than doing what I was going to do. So, but I have some homework assignments. I've been busy. We've been doing rally training stuff, and potentially there could be some rally activities next week. It all depends on what happens tomorrow night. Things go. So a busy schedule. Although I do want to go to Idaho. Where are you going? Someplace in Idaho?
Probably up to Idaho.
Yeah.
Although the finals looming, I mean, there's all these events that I like to go to because I love motorcycles. I love racing. There's a Moran race in Utah this weekend, and
that's the one at the Crazy Lake place.
I think so. And some of it's kind of a Utah versus Nevada thing. So there's that going on, and I'm fortunate I get a lot of invites to these things, but
like factory rides.
Not really.
Not really.
Full factory.
You don't
rides.
show up and somebody has a bike ready for you to go?
Well, that happened this weekend. It was a Dick's Racing factory bike.
Got it. So Jason Podal says, "Is it me or have you not done one of these shows in a long time?" No, it's you. I mean, it's us. We quit for a while. I did quit. We had that big T-shirt sale, right? We sold out of all the T-shirts, and then I had no more reason to do the show because it's all about selling the merch, Chuck.
And you're out of shirts?
We were out of shirts.
Oh, that's the only reason I came here. I figured I'd get a shirt. But
can you fit into a small or a medium?
I might be able to try a medium.
I'm sporting a large tonight on my my collector's item shirt here because I got this back when I was large, not extra large. So, but yeah, maybe we might be able to squeeze you into a medium there.
Good on you. Good on you.
Don't wash it. So no, Jason, we've kind of been taking some time off, and Victor says the weather will be cool this weekend in California. Yeah,
got it.
And Trevor Hunter wants to know: does Chuck know how big of a deal you are? Which he's talking about me. Do you know how?
Jimmy who?
Right. Okay. Yeah. There we go.
Actually,
Trevor, I'm going to get some of my fans to fight Chuck right now. Okay. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to pretend I'm going to act cool, like it didn't happen, like he didn't just insult me, and I'm going to get some of my friends to fight him. You know what I mean?
I will say this: I've always been a fan of Dakar, and a little time has passed, but you were the dude. I mean, everybody raves about Brabeck and what they've done. But you put it on the podium before we were even expected to show up on a big twin BMW. So, yeah, I have a lot of regards. I mean, my history is motocross, and I always rode off-road because that was fun stuff. And you get to ride all the time. You don't have to sit around in the pits. So, yeah, we have some appreciation.
I usually interrupt people on the show. It's my bad habit. I just interrupt. But if you're just going to keep talking about me and say nice things, I'm going to just sit over here and be quiet. So, yeah, that was a long time ago, Chuck. Well, but I actually, because of some other thing I have to do, is I have to find some old clips of me racing. So I was going through old videotapes, old VHS videotapes of like speed coverage of Dakar back then. You had to wait like 3 or 4 days. Like if you had a fax machine, you could get results of what was going on someplace in Africa. And when I was over there racing, maybe 2 or 3 times, I'd be able to get access to a phone. I could type a message and somebody could print out and they could send it through a fax machine back to like my parents and stuff like this. It was definitely different times. So I mean, they have the Mali Moto class, and that was what a factory rider did.
I'm going to guess you don't have younger listeners because they don't know what a fax machine is, but that's cool. I'm not saying anything.
I talked to another friend today, Andrew Short, and when I say tech talk, like into my phone, it says TikTok because that's the thing now. So it says TikTok, and he says, TikTok's for the kids. No wonder nobody pays attention to you.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So, okay, we're going to drive right into the questions. If you have a question, you put it up in the chat. We are going to get to it quickly tonight. And Granny Mitigation Strategies says 2023 KTM 500 seems to have considerable vibrations. So a KTM 500 is probably an EXC. Man, I do not think that the KTM EXCs at any time really have considerable vibrations.
They may come from the knobby tires on pavement. That would probably override any other vibration. And a lot of times they come up through the pegs. But
right. He says, just balance my tires. Any steps you may suggest. So good. Keep flowing with the information as we discuss this. And remember, they're like on a little bit of a delay, kind of like a 8 to 10 second delay, depending on the platform you guys are watching on. But like Chuck said, the first thing is the stock tires, they are generally kind of a DOT, a really, we'll call it not aggressive, a really smooth-ish DOT knobby that tend not to vibrate. And I don't know, they do usually when you buy a stock EXC, they don't even have a rim lock in it. So you get a rim lock in a bag. But if you switch to knobbies, that's where, like I said, that's where all the vibration comes from. It's like I said, not through the chassis, not through it's the wheels being out of balance. And if you're riding on the dirt, you're not going to notice it. But yeah, if you're buzzing down the highway, play with the pressure on the TKC 80 tire. So yeah, I thought they switched from the TKCs, but I would suggest getting rid of the TKC 80 tires and getting some. I mean, those are about the best ones you're going to get if you want to ride on the street because they're really good tires. But
the other thing you could do is you could go get a CR500 and you could write it down and kind of see if your hands are vibrating off your arms, and then get back on the 500.
That's
Said,
a
hey,
great-
this thing doesn't vibrate at all.
Some of the best suggestion we've ever had in the show. Go ride an old pile of crap, and then
Yeah.
and then thank your lucky stars how blessed we are to have bikes that don't vibrate. Or you could buy a Yamaha. Yamaha's absolutely, they don't vibrate. In fact, you could take a Yamaha and you could, because they float, they like literally ride on water, and you could ride across a pool and it wouldn't even make any waves. If you stopped in the middle of the pool while you're riding across it, like any other bike, it would make like waves. It'd be like a wave pool. So that would be the other thing to do. Yamaha, big sponsor of the show, and
I have some friends that bleed blue, and they rave about it. They're from other countries too. New Zealand. They said, "Oh, Yamaha engineers are the best," you know. Now, my relationship with Yamaha, those are always guys that are racing against me. Rick Burkett, Brock Glover. So you know, it's kind of the enemy. But I've ridden the bikes, and yeah, I mean they're great. I mean they've
all the bikes are these days. If you go back in history, when you were racing Hondas, your bike was far superior to anything that was coming out of the back then the yellow yellow company. Yeah.
Well, I always like to think so. If anything, you sell yourself on that.
What did we call? We called the YZ490 the air hammer.
Oh, they pinged. They invented pinging. Brock used to complain about those things.
Yeah.
There's a story about Håkan Karlqvist. Rest in peace, bro. He's a good guy. Swedish world champion. Got so upset with the factory Yamaha. He'd come in, he'd grab a shovel, wouldn't even talk to anybody. He'd go out, dig a hole, lift the bike up because he was so powerful, and throw it in there and cover it up. It may have cost him his relationship with Yamaha. I'm not sure, but
Can you see any of our today's racer kids doing something like that? They might throw a helmet. Oh, you know what they do today? They go on the internets and they say mean things on the internets now, right? That's a big thing.
perhaps
I think we should start giving them shovels so they can dig holes and bury their bikes.
I think it might be safer. Yeah.
So, anyways, fresh off of Vegas to Reno, Chuck.
Yeah.
How did it go?
Well, there's so many talking points, and I'll have to start right off with the Folks. Brian Folks, Casey, the founder of Best in the Desert, passed away, their dad.
Right.
And they've picked up the banner not from a financial standpoint. Sure, they want to be successful financially, but more of a heritage. And they've really put their heart into developing a course. And what a great event. Now, having said that, it's not what I do. But Dick called me and said, hey, Dick's Racing Suspension. Dude, we got to do this. Zitterkoff, Hare and Hound champion, 4-stroke champion. He just turned 60. Dick just turned 60. Let's take everybody down. And I said, okay. Long story short, what ends up being, I've been doing hard enduro. I've been scaring myself at 5 miles an hour.
It's almost exactly like Vegas to Reno, except nothing's the same.
you coined it exactly. Now you're sitting there and I'm not used to 105 miles an hour, and it's a little spooky. But very exciting. We finished. We brought it in. I'm never one to say quit. I kept pushing, but you have to feel the edge and where that's at. And there's a couple other Greg is a good sized fella these days. So they had
he's put on. See, when I put on weight, I put on some editorial weight.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like that. Your excuse is that you don't use energy when you ride,
right? Yeah,
and so you don't burn any calories.
There's really nothing else that I do that causes my physique.
So Greg's tipping in about. I'm going to call it 260. I'm at 165. It's a clear 100 pounds. You put a Volkswagen spring on there. I'm running.
Dick has never been a small dude.
he has lost weight, and we could split the difference in between us.
Okay.
So he's running twos, say
Yeah.
210.
Yep.
That's still good sized fella. Okay.
Yeah.
So they say, nah, it's the big guys. We got to set it up. I sit on the bike. I'm working on 85 millimeter preload. I've never even ridden a bike like that. Are you kidding me? A spiky rear end at 100 miles an hour. Talk about spook factor.
Right.
But anyway, it's my job to adapt to that. And I did the best I could. But we've brought it in. No, the bike is beautiful. It was super reliable. And it was a great experience. We can touch on more points, but it was awesome.
So when Chuck is talking about 105, he's talking about the sag of the bike. So typically you'd want it down in the 100 millimeter at the, like I used to run every once in a while, like on certain bikes, I would run up in the 95, but it was a real unique setup. So, but you want 100, 105, on desert bikes, you kind of want them to run a little bit lower in the rear.
Low boy. And it's like the Villapoto thing. It almost 110 and let that rear end kick out and slide around like dirt track, so you can you make these turns. But if you grab a front brake and the front end dives and you got a stink bug and that at 100 miles an hour, that corner comes up to you fast.
Right.
And I slid out a couple times all the way to the berm and banked the lip on the outside, and my heart was in my throat.
Yeah, which is sketchy because when they knock the rocks out of the road that they're blading and stuff, which is generally the roads are pretty rocky. Where do you think all those rocks end up? I mean, I see people go railing around the outside of the berms. And there was one county in Nevada where you could do this because the guy was really the road grader guy, which like best roads in the world. He would pick those things out and wouldn't leave them there. But if you go out and trust those things, it's sure enough you're going to go in there, sink it in. It's like the best sand berm ever, and blammo.
Oh, yeah. What you can't see. I mean, there's a lot of faith and belief. If you're not religious, you'll get religious on one of these things.
That's desert racing in general, I think.
Yeah. And here's another thing. You're going to hit something. And sure enough, ping, and you get airborne. And you think, oh, this could be it. And then thankfully, Dick's suspension brings you back to earth. Then you grab another handful and you tear into it. And it's almost like, dude, what are you doing? It's like, please give me another one. Serve me up another one. And it's a really bizarre episode of this fear, reward, and stay in it. Glad I checked it off.
Yeah. Well, you've done it. You've done the race before.
I have, and I've never finished before dark.
Okay.
I finished, but we had transmission problems, whatever it may be.
Oh, you rode. What kind of bikes you ride?
Husaberg.
Yeah, we like the Husabergs here, by the way. That's what the bell's for.
And it's some of the best transmission. They use a chrome moly, but there was some oil issues at any rate.
Yeah. Not known for being the most durable bikes on the planet.
But they were the coolest.
Yeah.
I mean, they were the first four-strokes that had 1 quart of oil, and they had huge horsepower and usable horsepower. So when I came in before...
I have a 650 out in the garage.
What?
I have a Husaberg 650.
Dude, that was one of our favorite bikes.
So much power.
Even on a motocross track.
Yeah. They were crazy. I mean, because it's like one of the only bikes that you can go up like a big old sand hill climb that a 450 is taped on, and the 450 just barely pulling it, and you can upshift on a Husaberg and it'll pull the next gear.
Hey, Laughlin has another Best in the Desert race.
No.
Coming up.
No,
Maybe we could
I don't
pull
want
that Husaberg.
I'm pretty sure if we took that particular bike, the crank would actually blow out it'd blow right through the bottom of that cradle frame and be laying on the ground. You'd probably you hit those rocks you don't see. You'd be going so fast when thing blew out the bottom, you'd kick it with the rear wheel and you'd wonder where the rock was that you hit.
And you wouldn't come back.
No. So good times. Okay, so you've done it on a Husaberg. Have you done any other like local desert racing kind of stuff, the Moran stuff
lot,
or District
yeah.
37? Oh, you have?
Especially if it rains. And usually the beginning of the year, January, February, March, I'm here in town. Normally I'm riding Idaho, Oregon mountains in the
Right.
summer. But down here in a rain, it's just like, man, we got to do this.
Right.
And out I go. I'm not always prepared for it, but I don't care. It's a really enjoyable thing. And the Moran guys around here are tough.
Yep.
Because it's rugged, rocky. It's brutal terrain, but they're a lot of fun. So I've done a lot of the Moran events over the years since I've been down here, and they're a gas.
Yeah, it's local. It's good local racing for sure.
There's Moran North and there's Moran down here.
Right.
And I'm a member of the Wild Bunch.
Right. Oh, you are.
Wild Bunch.
Okay. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me.
They have a call sign similar to Red Bud, except it's Wild Bunch. Okay.
Got it. Hey, so we got a question. Southwest Trails and Wheels says, now that the beautifully compliant bump absorbing Michelin Starcross 5s are no longer available, what's a good alternative for this tires with soft compliant sidewall? I would say probably the Starcross 6, yeah. Have you I've ridden the front and I found it I'm kind of running my memory banks if there was any. I didn't notice it being that much different than the Starcross 5, which I did like, by the way.
Well, it's interesting. Obviously, we're talking about 18-inch rims.
Yeah.
And so I'll plug in what we just used in 550 miles wide open. We went to the good old tried and true 606 Dunlop. And
really?
It lived.
So many guys run dual sport tires, like there's some Kenda dual sport. I mean, like the really tight
knobs
block.
off, torn out, gone.
Yeah, so
they never live.
But that tire is absolutely not a soft compliant tire. The 606. It's a pretty stiff tire. But when you start talking about so the Starcross 5 was probably one of the softer ones that didn't wallow. There's definitely some tires that are soft and wallow, but Pirelli has a mid soft that is really good, and the Bridgestone is softer than the Dunlop, and then there's a few other brands, but they're kind of the off brands, and then it gets really picky, and you're not going to believe this, but even the Rocky Mountain tires, their Tusk tires, are pretty decent, and I did some testing on their mid-soft or their softer ones, so that I did them on both the soft and the hard one, and I'm thinking that the soft one was pretty decent. It was kind of comparable to the Dunlop in a lot of ways, and I found it better than the Dunlop. And I mean, just across the board, I'm not a huge Dunlop tire fan. Not that they're not great tires. I think for most people they're really good. But when you start talking about soft sidewalls, that's not a Dunlop. The Dunlops tend to be a little stiffer. They're really concerned with like the way that the cornering is. They don't want any wallow in that tire at all. Where I actually don't mind a little bit of wallow and a little bit of give. So it's a personal preference. And
what I like about Tusk is if they go out and they're not afraid to try something new.
Right.
And they came out with the hybrid hard enduro tires, which are great, and the Tough Recon. I can't even manage that because it's too wallowy.
Yeah.
And then they came out with some new stiffer stuff. Some of their products are so stiff, it's gnarly. It really hammers. So I can appreciate not having too stiff a sidewall. And it really is relative. Grab those tires, test them for yourself.
Yeah. That's a good thing about a tire is you can take it on and off. It's not like you're putting on. You're not doing a permanent modification. And if you don't like it right away, take it off quick, and you can probably sell it to your buddy for half.
Well, they're cheap.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The
some
tires.
of the stuff for $150, you can get some of the Tusk for 50, 60
and
pounds.
if you are going to Rocky Mountain, you're going to buy anything, if you could please click through the link we have on dirtbiketest.com. That's www.dirtbiketest.com. We actually get a small little chunk if you go through our link, and it does help pay for our bandwidths or whatever that we consume around here.
Well, Rocky Mountain
it pays for these 2 beers that Chuck is going to drink.
I'm already halfway through this
Uh-oh.
one. But by the way, you know who supported Dick and the race team?
No.
Rocky Mountain came on board.
Awesome.
And they brought out some of their new gear that I used to rep years ago. They bought MSR.
Right.
And dude, it was fine looking stuff. We look snappy. There's a photo and Cycle News or something like that.
Awesome.
We made it in there. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, you know. So just roll back to that. So I've been a partner. Me and Greg Zitterkoff rode the Tonopah 300 one year.
Well, there you go. That's amazing.
As a teammate way back in the day. So I think when he just first started with KTM, I was able to. We both didn't have partners, and like you two ride together. Actually, you know who else I raced with at Tonopah? Was Brian Folks. We did it on a 125 KTM. We won the 125 Pro class way back in the old days. Okay, John Beck has a question. Or no, maybe it's a comment. Your editorial weight doesn't line up with most mortals. Running to work in OC sounds very OC, but that would be fun contest to see who could own up to your typical jogs. Well, now I do only about a mile when I run, and in that mile I consume 4 beers. And I can do it generally in under like 11 minutes when it's 100 degrees plus. So that's all. That's what the weight. That's how the weight works. Bandwidth bill in the mail. Uh-oh. What, does Chris know something about something I don't? Actually, I'm trying to figure out the finances for this whole operation in the next couple of days. You know, this empire that we have out here.
But they don't even charge. It's all
free.
Free by the government. They just drop a line in, right? Yeah.
So
until it's not.
Yeah. So the course this year, what sections did you ride?
Well, it was this kind of an interesting note. I mean, originally they had me starting.
Good choice not to.
Well, I said, look, I'm not involved with that. I'll do whatever you want. I'll start. I've started before. The reason it's not my primary huckleberry is because you're buried in dust. You're handcuffed. You really can't do anything. And I told Dick, I mean, tongue in cheek, why would you handicap the racehorse?
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying anything about myself.
Okay, so Chuck, you're by the racehorse. You mean the by far and away the oldest dude on the team?
The speedster.
You're not the oldest guy on the team.
Well, I am the oldest guy.
Yeah, you rode with these two 60-year-old babies, and you're up there. You're more than 5. You got more than 5 in those guys.
Yeah, maybe 7 or 8.
Right. Okay, so yeah, smart.
So that was the strategy. And Dick did struggle in the dust like anybody would, but he only gave up like 4 minutes. So actually he did quite well.
4 minutes to who? The other team?
Yeah, the other team.
Crazy 60-year-olds.
Yeah.
They had to be crazy
if
they were going faster.
Turns out every one of them is pretty well established. You know, Hare and Hound champions current. Mm-hmm. In the 50 class.
Right.
So they're the real deal. I mean, hats off to them, riding a clapped out 650 Honda. I mean, dude.
I saw that bike go by.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, I for sure saw Dick go by. And I was out there. I rode my Tenere out there and did what I was really good at doing, is standing around and watching races these days. So I watched, but I did see that XR 650 go by. And I literally wanted to stop the guy and say, hey, I got one of those for sale if you need another one. Because it did look kind of clapped.
Well, there was a Tenere in the race,
right?
Too.
Yeah.
So I think it was I don't know how he did, but he was.
It looked like he was up. Oh, it was an Ironman?
I think it was an Ironman.
Because it seemed like he was up around the 30, 40 pros or expert area when we kind of saw it. You could definitely hear the thing coming. But once you get back about 5 or 6 bikes, it was just a steady stream of dust. And, the quad pros, like literally started like they were like the 10th thing through. In the section I was in, the 2 quad pros that went through there were the fastest vehicles out of everything, and it blew me away how because it was loose, rocky, up over a rise, and kind of they were faster than the trophy trucks, they're faster than all-wheel drive trophy trucks, way faster than the bikes, just because they could lock those things in and. Ridiculous.
Low CG. I scrapped with them in Mexico and Baja, and they bag me because they don't slow down for the turns. They just back it in, and they haul. They haul,
and
they kick up twice the dust.
Shit ton of dust. They were almost more dusty than the big 4-wheel vehicles. Like, because I think it's where we were at. Like they were sliding a lot. Where the bigger 4-wheel vehicles had to slow down to make these turns. And but yeah, watch out for that. I think one of the quads got bumped by a truck, says Victor. Wouldn't surprise me because when they got the sportsman quads, which are quite, there were some people that were. It was actually, I was surprised at how many people rode by that were wearing like Levi's and like a flannel jacket or something, just like stuff that they look like, hey, my dream is to go do Vegas to Reno. I don't want to go race Baja, but I want to do it. I'm going to go do Vegas to Reno. And it was probably like maybe 6 or 7 people that like you could tell they were not motorcycle racers. They were kind of riding, and like one guy tipped over and he just stood there kind of like looking at his bike and just like this, and you're thinking,
better get off the course, bro.
Well, yeah, and he was kind of in a little dip down a little thing where nobody could see him. He was down off this hill. We were up on top of this hill looking down, and just like you're like, dude, jump up, back up, and go. It was like kind of a really lame, he just front end hit a rock and it kind of rolled, and then he wallowed and fell over, and just bike's in the middle of the course. He's just kind of standing there like looking at it like something had happened, and it was like, dude, go. And he was there for good 5 people went by him, and everybody's desert race also, you okay? And he just kind of like looks at him, and he was fine. I mean, it didn't hit his head or nothing. He was, it just kind of like, okay, you're not a racer.
Maybe that'd be better if he hit his head, wake him up a little bit.
And then he went like 5 or 6 turns later, and it got sandy. He wobbled in the sand and fell over, and we were just going, oh, it's going to be a long day for this guy. And there was 1 or 2 quads in particular that were kind of, click, click, and then there was 5 bikes packed up right behind him.
Well, to the point of a trophy truck coming up on you, that's what happened to me when I didn't make it in, and it was at night. And when those things come up behind you at night, the hills light up like there's a stadium coming up behind you.
Yep.
I mean, they're so bright, and it is frightening. And you pull over. They do the best they can, but it's gnarly.
And you make a shadow right where you want to go. Like, it overpowers your light. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. Their light's so bright that you make this big shadow right where you want to go. And we're talking, you think they're right on your ass, and you pull over, and it's 20 or 30 seconds for them to catch you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, the first time I ever raced Baja at night, and this was way before the crazy lights that they have now, but cars still had a lot of lights. We ran out of gas, so we were way behind. We got passed by some cars at night, and it was like you like I said, you saw if there was any sort of mountain or something like that, their lights would be on there, and you'd see lights bouncing around on a mountain, and you're like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And it could be like 5 minutes back, a long ways back, and you're crazy.
You feel like you're being hunted down. It is a little alarming. And then, of course, we're so confident we didn't have a light.
This year?
No. This year we had for sure.
Well, how is a Husqvarna going to power a light? If you put a light on it, it would make less overall horsepower, and so you wouldn't even want to compromise.
Well, I got lucky. A buddy of mine, hey, come on, man. He had the light, and he was like my next favorite buddy, and followed him all the way back into Reno with his headlight.
Right.
Poaching.
Yeah. So with this year,
motorcycle races are a full adventure.
The other reason that I had to get passed by cars in my first Baja race was because we did have a light, and we had a good light, and my great partner, amazing Tim Morton, Baja Bound Adventures.
Morty.
Yeah. So he was my first Baja partner. He handpicked me because he knew that I would show up with a factory KTM 125, and all he had to do was get on and ride, which is just that's a best deal, Chuck. I don't know if you ever done that before. You have somebody else do the bike, you just get on and ride. You know what I mean?
Once in a while.
so
Dick was saying all the work he did on it. I said, good on you.
So we actually put our light on a pit or so early just in case, because we were kind of running really tight on our fuel stops. We jetted it wrong. Anyways, so we put on our light early, and sure enough, it got dark down in this place, and a bunch of guys got stuck out in the dark. And so when Tim finally came in, he brought like 5 guys in with him. He used our light.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing. It was right before he started his tour company, just like literally a month before he started his tour company. So Tim brings all these guys in, and then he's telling me all the stories, and I'm like, Tim, just get off the bike, gas it. We got to gas it and go. And by the time he got done telling me all the stuff, they'd all put their lights on and took off and had to eat their dust. And you know what he was doing? Marketing. He was building goodwill for his new tour company.
There you go.
To have, I'm sure all these guys ended up being some of his first customers because he's such a great tour guide. He couldn't be a good racer. He wanted to be a good tour guide, and he started during our Baja 1000.
That's awesome. There's a lot of ways to get the word out. Save somebody's ass is not bad.
Right.
About the lights, it's much different nowadays. You can bolt something on that has 2,000 watts.
Oh,
and it beams and it's still light.
The stuff you can buy just over the shelf from Baja Designs, even the midline. I mean, the low line stuff, it's okay. You can ride at night with it. The midline stuff, you could take and go race like night GPs, and you could go do a Vegas Torino, or you could do a Baja 1000
and throw a helmet light on with it.
I'm not a big helmet light guy. Never have been, because a lot of times that if it lights up and there's dust, it illuminates the dust. I mean, I know you can turn it on and off, but I almost, when I'm riding at night, and I love riding at night, I was a good night rider, I don't want to be distracted.
Oh, that may be. When I'm thinking the Northwest,
okay.
where it's tighter and you're looking down.
Right. You're
Baja, if you're looking ahead, a single beam might be good. But to the point of lights, I was a moto guy, and Chris Haynes said, you got to put the lights. He's super conservative. You got to put these lights on. No, I don't want the lights on. I'm going to be there fine.
Yeah.
They demanded I put them on, but those weren't little LEDs. These big monster dualies.
CBs or Oscars.
And I got a swap and did this big crash in Mexico, and it tore my kidney belt off. And I was like all wadded up, and this Mexican family grabbed me, dragged me off the course. It was where the trophy trucks crisscrossed. I came in, handed the bike to Chris. Later, he called me, the lights seem kind of weird. And by the way, where's our sat phone? Oh, about that, Chris. I just gave it to a really nice Mexican family. And he didn't even respond. He just went click. And after the race was over, I mean, we're in San Felipe. Hey, Chuck, there's people here at the hotel. I want to see you. And the car pulled up. About 8 people jumped out of it. And because I told them what hotel we're at. And there they brought the fanny pack with the sat phone.
Yeah.
Sat phone, which
yeah.
is worth about a year's wages for these folks. So when you talk about the risks of Mexico, that may not have happened here in the U.S., but they were so good and faithful. So, I mean, love Mexico. It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, when I'm down there doing the NORA and stuff, the people that we run into, and and now it's interesting because, we're able to, because I'm working with some Mexican guys that really know the area, and they're really friendly with all the ejidos and stuff. And we're able to go places that you can't go when you're doing pre-running and stuff like that. So, another note, by the way, just dropping this info here, we're going to limit entries on the motorcycle classes in the NORA Mexico 1000 this year. So, if you want to do that, just make sure you're paying attention to when we do this. Again, the show is brought to you by Yamaha. If you're one of these lurkers that hangs out and watches this horrible show on live right now, and you have a motorcycle question, you should ask the question right now, because Chuck is here to answer all of your technical questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our YouTube comments, and I know Trevor was watching earlier. He's probably at one of his district club meetings or something. Trevor's friend wanted to fight me because I don't know. There was a post someplace, or someone asked how Trevor was doing, and like I put some video clips up of Preston, or actually it was Justin Morgan going by, and a clip of Ricky going by, and they're like, well, where's the clip of Trevor? And in all honesty, it was Hayden was on the bike at the time, and it was like the one bike I didn't shoot because I was kind of he had started right behind Ricky, and I was kind of paying attention to Ricky. We were trying to get seeing what kind of time he was making up at that point. And they're like, where's the picture of Trevor? And I'm like, Trevor should quit racing and start working dirt bike tests full time and do more work.
Oh, nice.
And evidently that's a mean thing to say, according to somebody, and they wanted to fight me. you know what's funny, Chuck, is like if I say mean things about you, especially in public, especially on the Facebooks, I'm probably a really good friend of yours.
Yeah,
And-
I mean
and-
that's what Moto World's made out of,
Yeah,
right?
I'm
we
poking.
dig each other,
Right.
and that means we're bros.
Right, yeah, he's my buddy. We work together on this dirt bike test thing, and all I do, he was over here the day before because he shipped parts here because that guy's got to get his shit together. I mean, they don't have their stuff ready for their bike, and stuff's getting shipped here. It's like it's a loose race program run by their dads, which I used to race against these guys, so I know. And so when he said some guy wanted to fight me, I go, "It's not your dad, is it?"
That's funny.
So,
Dude, if you're out there scrapping with Breivik, you're doing okay.
yeah, they were close. I mean, they were right behind, but it's funny because Trevor can be really fast at desert racing, and then sometimes he's kind of slow. And I think it kind of goes down to like he's had some good close calls, and some big ones. And I think when you can not think about that, like he talked about, give me another one. I don't think he wants another one. he has,
Rightfully so. And by the way, okay, it's a race and it's in the desert, but this isn't conventional desert racing. This is a little different, best in the desert, honestly.
Yeah, well, it's so fast. It is so fast. It's not like bounce.
It's alarming.
Like I literally wanted to do this thing with Yamaha. I wanted to go buy a Tenere, totally box stock, and take it and do the race. And I would have no problem in doing it. And it was. I was kind of close to to throwing a pitch at him, and I was kind of starting to work on, okay, how can we get it filmed and all this stuff, because that'd be a budget to do it and this stuff. And I wouldn't be racing it; I would just be surviving it. But I guarantee you, I would enter Motorcycle Pro, I would enter Open Pro, so I started in the front, and then I would just cruise. And
it'd be fun
because when you were going by, there was what, probably 20 or so. Where'd you finish overall? 20, 30?
Yeah.
So there's 20 or 30 tracks.
Yeah.
It's so nice when there's just 5 or 6 tracks going by.
Well, it opened up for me. I mean, they ate most of the dust, and it opened up. I ran sections with no dust.
That's
of all
so
things.
awesome. Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah. So we're going to go to right now our questions on our YouTube videos. I'm going to pop that up on the screen here. So if you're watching this horrible production, you can actually see the questions that we got here. So our first question comes from let me move my, I don't know why my cursor doesn't work, and this is technical difficulties. From the Foxy T2. Oh, we're gonna get into Hotel California, huh?
Yeah, I'm thinking
we're not getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go riding this time, are we?
No,
good, because I don't.
That was training.
Oh, that was training.
That was
You're
training.
done training right now.
Yeah, and thank you for helping me train for the Vegas to Reno, and it worked well because I don't normally see 4 o'clock in the morning. Actually, getting up, I do see 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
living in Vegas,
different way, yeah,
but
right.
Coming in from the other side.
Yeah.
We finally kick people out and we go to bed.
Right. Yeah. So I didn't realize that was cheers. I didn't realize that was the training aspect for getting you out of bed early enough to get to the start of your next race.
Well, and I was alarmed. These guys are serious. You get geared your bikes on at 5. I said, dude, it's not even light yet.
Right.
And somehow my light was unplugged on my bike, so I just tucked in behind you guys in the dark, heading to the trail that morning.
Oh, the morning. Yeah. Oh, I thought you were talking about going to the start of Vegas.
No. But to me, that was the start of Vegas to Reno. Riding with you guys.
So the Foxy T2 says on our CD Crossfire 3 boot review, worn out Tech 7 pretty quickly. Once I wear out the SG22, I'm going to try the CD, spelled SEDI. Thanks, Jimmy. Well, the Foxy T2, you should write a boot review because you're going to have a lot of experience on that stuff. But thank you. And then he also commented on our Honda Transalp 750 video. Bad air filter location pass. I'm sticking with the Tenere 700. Where's the air filter on the Transalp? I don't know if I actually got into the air filter. You know, on that bike that's in that test, I was supposed to go ride an electric bike out at Sandy Valley, This company was going to demo their electric bike out there and wanted to go ride it. And it rained a whole bunch the day before, and I rode from here on the Transalp in the dirt, and I got out to Sandy Valley, and I'm going to ride dirt all the way to the track, kind of on those back roads. And you know why they call it Sandy Valley? Because there's a lot of sand. There's also a lot of silt and sloppy mud.
Oh, yeah.
And the track is probably in the lowest spot. And I was riding, and it was getting sloppy, and the tires are packing up, and the mud is sticking, so it can't spin between the forks and all that stuff. And I'm hopping out of the road and going kind of up and through the sagebrush
To shake it off.
to try to kick it off, but also because it was deeper.
Well, some of the early adventure bikes had low fenders.
This does
and
have
they
this,
clog up
This
and
did
lock
have a low
the front
fender.
wheel up.
Yeah, and so I was able to kind of, I'd hop up, but that whole valley where the road, I was right by the motocross track, and that whole valley washes all of its water into that road, and I was just trying to go, and I kept sliding, and I slid down into the road, and I tried to cross it, but the ruts were so deep, I got super stuck out there on that thing. So I don't know what the air filter's like, but it doesn't like mud either. AJP PR7. Apenture. I'm good with the spelling. You know what I mean?
I can't even see that far.
Yeah. Seems like a damn nice bike, though the lack of dealer support is worrying. So this is interesting. How important is like dealer support anymore if you can order the parts direct from the importer?
Usually with racers, it's you're all over modifying the bike. So you're in your garage and in your shop. Now, the Tenere or some of these other adventure bikes, they tend to be a little bit more technically complicated with the computers and whatnot.
So
you have to integrate with the dealer a little bit more
Right.
to get updates. And I think the companies are being involved. I know firsthand with KTM, they'll have digital updates.
Right, but even
new mapping.
so you have to go, like at that point you have to go to the dealer.
To a degree.
Yeah.
And then it boils down to that owner and how they approach the market. And quite often, it's the guy that's been around a while that appreciates the tech aspect of their service. And
Right.
Dealers can vary.
Right.
Some have more experience in the historical.
Yeah, I'm thinking of all the bikes that I have, and so I have a BMW that, like, for the ABS stuff, it needs to go to the dealer. Like, it gets a fault code in it, and you can't clear it off. And then my KTM 1090s and 1190s, which I don't have any of the newer new ones, but I've always been able to find some sort of a hack or a way around, how to push a couple buttons to.
Well, when it comes to ABS, we just disable it.
Right.
I mean, not anymore now, but original.
Oh.
I mean, dude, I've rolled through intersections, scared the shit out of me. I said, "Oh my god!"
Because ABS kicked in.
Yeah, and I said, "I go, oh god, am I going to stop? A car's coming!" And it's like,
Yeah.
of course, I was unfamiliar with how it was working.
Right.
But it's alarming.
Oh, you felt it work, and you released the brakes. You feel it, and it feels like it's skidding a little bit.
Well, no. It released a skid because it was kind of sandy coming down.
Oh,
So
you're
it
talking dirt road onto pavement.
Right. It
Yeah,
released and wanted to send me out into the road. Now, don't think that I'm familiar with all EBS, but it scared the crap out of me.
No,
I wasn't in control.
on washboard roads and stuff like that. That's why a lot of the bikes have off-road ABS now, where it allows you to like kind of skid your back wheel a little bit. Because if on bikes that are just street ABS, and if you're on washboards, it really confuses those sensors. And I didn't ride into an intersection. I rode off a cliff. I was coming down a switchbacky thing, and it was like a quick cliff into a ditch, and I was able to, when I went off the cliff, I was able to turn the bike, and I landed down on the bottom of the
good for
ditch.
you.
But it was a good cliff. But I'm like coming in there, and I'm like, okay, slow down, and it's going, and the ABS is kicking, and I'm just like slamming it on. I'm trying to figure out, like, I'm not going to make this turn, and all it is, I couldn't because the embankment that I wanted to hit, I was going too fast to be able to turn into it, and the cliff was only getting worse as I went farther around the turn. And I just said, well, I got to send it off this thing. And I was literally going to just ghost it. But as I kind of came off it, I'm like, I think I can, I don't know. You know how you don't think at the last second, you just, you think, but. And
it's an automatic reaction,
yeah,
your reaction might save your life.
Yeah, it did.
That's a great experience.
I don't know. I mean, I would have just jumped off the back.
Well, now conversely, when it comes to mapping and the different settings on power delivery,
right?
I love that stuff.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Hey, you know, if you buy a Yamaha, Chuck, you have this app on your phone, and it's the Yamaha Power Tuner app. It is one of the best reasons to have a Yamaha YZ 4-stroke because I can just go on my phone. Here it is right here, the Yamaha Power Tuner app. I'm holding it up on my little phone. If my YZ were like right out there and I push the start button, it would go boop. I could connect to it, and look at all these maps I have in here. I have all these super high tuned. Yeah, so they're all custom maps. That's
super cool. I've always thought like certain trails, name a trail, and that mapping's going to work up that trail, the right delivery.
Yeah, it takes like 10 or 15 seconds to connect to your bike and to send it in. So like you could literally do. I make the optimum map for all conditions, and I pretty much like leave it there. But if I get picky one day, I go, it needs a little more throttle response here. I can go in and tweak the ignition. So if you're thinking about and it's free. You know what, Chuck? You can have this app. I could download it onto your phone right now, and you could have it, and you could pretend.
I don't know if it'll work on my Husky.
You could pretend like you have. You could pretend like you have a Yamaha, and you would be able to.
Well, on that note, I'm going to take a break because the beer's going right through me.
That's good. I will keep answering questions. So user something says on our SP Connect phone connector, which you can actually see on the other side of my phone. I have the connection for the SP Connect in the case, which has been super durable. He says, don't use this. My phone was broken after driving over a bump, despite it was solid mounted. Interesting. I've had my phone on my bike for the entire Nora Mexican 1000 race, logging GPS points. And when the cell phone was working, I was able to use it. And mine still works just fine. So you have a shitty phone, and it's not the mount. I'm guaranteeing that. But I would almost guess that you're one of those guys that gets paid to post bad things about competitor products. That's what I think. So the Transalp filter, says Victor, changes way worse than the Africa Twin. You have to remove the fairing and the gas tank. That sounds about as ridiculous as the KTM 1090 air filter change, which you have to do the same thing as well. And I am going to, spoiler alert, on this new thing I got coming up, you're going to get to see that Rottweiler fix for that particular thing. So Rottweiler Performance, if you're looking for that, they have a really awesome filter for KTM 1090s and 1190s. Two Wheels Durness says, how many kilometers can you go with a full tank? And this is on the 2024 Beta 300 RR review. While I usually have this issue while riding with 4-strokes or TPI, I am first out of gas in the group at 60 kilometers. So, Chuck, how far did my Beta go last week?
Well, I know my KTM did 63 miles, and you had more fuel.
I poured a gallon in. Remember?
Oh, see?
Or 3/4 of a gallon. You didn't see me do
you
that,
were
did you?
going to leave me out in the desert because I said, don't trust me, Chuck. We're only going to do 60. Don't need to carry fuel. And then out there, I said, you got quite a bit of fuel. Well, I poured some in.
I'm carrying fuel. Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
dude.
Well, you may not know. I may not have told you this because you're a high level rider. I figure you know better. But if you go riding with me, you will run out of one of three things, and I can guarantee this almost any ride. Unless my wife goes, then this won't happen. But if I'm just riding with the boys, you're going to run out of one of three things. You're going to run out of gasoline, which you did. I was on your bike when it happened. That's how good of a guy I am. I hopped on your bike knowing it was going to run out. So you can run out of gasoline, you're going to run out of daylight, or you will run out of energy in your body. Like you will bonk and have a problem. So I always say there's something you can do about two of those things. They make headlights and they make big gas tanks, or you can carry gas. The energy in your body thing, that's on you.
It's on me.
That's on you.
I was
you
fine.
were fine.
I was fine with
you were
that.
good. That's why I forgot to tell you this, but I didn't tell you about the thing. But see, since I knew Chuck's bike was going to run out, we started kind of beelining it down the mountain to the gas station. And I said, "Here, Chuck, hop on mine because I know where we're going, and you can follow me on my bike that has gas tank." And what we were testing was we were testing a large capacity tank on Casey's 2024 KTM. He had plenty of gas. So I knew that we just keep him behind us and we're home free. But I literally got to the intersection where the gas station was, and I went across. I got halfway across the intersection.
Well, it
and your
started
bike died.
leaning out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that always kind of alarms me when bikes run out. They lean out for a second.
Right. I was sitting at the stoplight with the engine off. I basically did a desert start to go across. Went brr, got enough speed. Went brr, and died right in the middle of the intersection. I pulled in the clutch, and I didn't even make. I was going to go
in front of the cop.
Yeah.
So we go over the curve.
Yeah. I
I
just
said,
went,
that's a good line,
yeah.
Jimmy.
I just went straight over into the crosswalk and over the curve. Just dropped right next to the gas tank. Call it good. Hey, we're in Pahrump, so you can kind of do that sort of stuff around here for the most part, as long as you're being responsible.
Yeah.
So how many kilometers? So here's the math question of the night, Chuck. How many kilometers can you go if that's 100 kilometers?
Yeah, 100K, 63 miles.
So the beta would have run out 2 miles before your bike. I'm just from experience and knowing this kind of thing. So had I not put the extra gas in there, the beta runs out shortly. So you're looking at like 96 kilometers.
Well, keep in mind, mine was a 250, but you didn't think because it runs like a 300 because I got it set up pretty well.
I'm asking
I got some Dix mapping,
Yeah.
and all the cool shit.
Yeah,
Right.
I should reply to this guy right now and give him the answer in kilometers. Just what is he, like a euro or an Aussie or something like that?
Well, it's something you can Google, and they give you the equation. So, unless he doesn't have internet, but apparently he does.
Yeah, but they ask us these questions all the time. Actually, I got a question for you too. So hold on. I want you to pretend like you own dirt bike tests. You just pretend, and I'm going to ask you this question here. It's in the notes here. Do you know Carson Brown is going to race a KDX 200 at the last man standing, or what's that? No, what's that race? The TKO knockout. Just saw that.
Well, first off, I'll tell you about some of the scraps I had with some of the boys up in the Northwest in Trask. The KDX 200 was kind of the go-to bike. I mean,
Right.
Anybody that was good that was on those and small and lightweight, watch out because they could fly on those. That was like the premier bike. I mean, I'm talking 30 years ago. So it's kind of interesting that he was he chose that bike.
They build all that. He just finds stuff on the marketplaces and junk out of people's backyards and builds it up. And
well, what it has going for it, it's lightweight, but it may not have the torque. I mean,
oh, it's no KTM 300.
Stuff goes straight up. I mean the TKO. You're kidding me.
I told him, I said, hey, come on out and I'll give you some pointers, because I watched him do the Erzberg. I watched some of his videos in the Erzberg, and I'm like, oh boy, that's I can't find that email that I wanted to read to you. It was a good one. So Hito Sawa 8479 says maybe the 2025 SR, and he's talking about our Project 2025 Kawasaki KX450 SR, will answer the lack of horsepower. Ooh. Saying if 450 doesn't have enough horsepower, the Kawasaki specifically. But it's funny that so I rode the intro with the 2024. I went to the 2024 KX450 intro, and it's not the fastest 450, but it makes plenty of power for almost every mortal person on this earth. Like 98% of the people that will ever ride that bike, it makes more power than you will ever use. And if you don't believe me, go hold it wide open when you ride around the track, and then come back and tell me it doesn't make enough power. Like, I mean, really hold it wide open.
Well, I mean, the bikes produce so much power nowadays. There's such things as rolling it into the corner, carving the turns, hitting the jump. There's so many things you can work on besides just raw horsepower to improve.
Getting a ton more power.
And it's massive. But that topic did come up on the Vegas to Reno. Greg said, could have used a little bit more power. And Greg, tip in it at 260. Do
So-
the equation of 6 pounds per horsepower.
right.
That's 15 horsepower.
He was giving up.
Giving up and bogging in the turns.
But he's getting better traction.
Potentially.
Yeah. Was he complaining about like top horsepower? Was holding it wide open, or was he talking about coming out of the turns? Because I find this. So I find
he got
this,
past pinned over 100. Somebody bagged him.
Oh.
And so that was top end. But you know if he's coming out of a sandy, boggy turn, pulling 260, I mean, I felt like it was pretty good, and I was on the gas pretty hard.
Right.
And I'm thinking, yeah, I love horsepower. A little bit more would always be good. But it was like, shit, do I really want to go faster?
And your bike was a Husky 501.
450.
450. Okay, Husky 450. Well, you should have had the 500.
With no mods.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Just suspension, steering, the cool stuff that Dick does.
Well, so if Dick was setting it up for Greg, you should have got the 501, that little bonus torque off the bottom.
It was
there.
going for reliability. Yeah. And the 501s, they don't have as much top end, I don't think. But whatever. I mean,
they don't rev as I want to say they don't rev as free up at top. I think they make. I mean, of course, when it's the 501, they're emissions compliant and stuff. So you kind of, to get that performance like the 450 has, more than likely you're going to have to do something with the ECU, because the difference between the 450 is they let it rev because it doesn't have to pass a sound test, where the 501, being a street legal or emissions compliant bike, they have to do a sound test, and the sound test is noise is measured at half of peak RPM. So how do you think they get the noise down? Lower peak RPM, lower peak horsepower, with peak RPM at peak horsepower. So you can easily get in the reason that people, if I got to get an ECU. It's like, why do you got to get an ECU? When are you going to be using power above, 9,500 RPM or whatever wherever it peaks
and
at?
what does it do to reliability? And do you need different fuel? And
usually not.
No?
I mean,
Okay. All right.
Because shocker, nobody ever rides it up there.
No. What about a 701? Could you imagine one of those things? Dude, those motors are beasts.
Yeah, they're fast. Yeah. Oh, what about a Tenere? You wouldn't have to do anything to a Tenere. Just click gears and go.
I think a single 701 would threaten a Tenere.
Hey, on the way out there, I got going 121 miles an hour on a dirt road.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. That's fast now. It's like just a stock. It's a stock Tenere with a cat
there
in it. There
were some sections that you could have gone 120, and I think we gave up some time.
Yeah.
But you have to be brave and have faith that the road's going to keep going, and have some vision.
So if you are watching the show, and everybody wanted the nugget, like the thing of the nugget is for tonight. I know I use this one too much. Just if you want more power, turn the throttle farther. It works almost every single time. And if you run out of throttle cable, make sure you're in the right gear and you're at the peak RPM, because I guarantee you're not.
Well, you run it in a little deeper.
Right. Yeah, wait a little longer, use the brakes. Christopher Evans says I have a video up there. It's how to easily grease a KTM swing arm bearing. And he says, is it similar steps for the link and knuckle bearings? And the answer is yes. It's one of the needle bearings inside the swing arm. I just, instead of pulling the thing out and having them all fall down and then playing like Rubik's
I've had
Cube,
them explode and rusty. I mean, yeah. Nasty.
So I show you how you can just push it halfway in and then just start packing grease in that way, and then push it and slide it and milk it that way. But luckily out here in our nice desert and stuff like that, as long as you don't pressure wash the crap out of your bike or ride across alkali dry lake beds on a regular basis, this isn't as big of an issue. It isn't like the humid environments.
Oh yeah. My good friends up in Oregon take me through rivers.
Oh yeah, rivers. Yeah.
And I've rusted, bearings down there.
I
they
heard,
fall out and scattered.
I heard it because you ride the bike so hard that your bearings actually they heat up and expand, and then it allows water to get between the seals, and then it cools it down. It seals the water in.
As good as anything.
Okay, yeah. If you were a regular dude, you wouldn't ride the bike that hard and it wouldn't get in. Because I ride mine across occasional rivers. I rode into a beaver dam last year. I actually didn't fill up just my swing arm with water. I filled up my engine with water. I know how to do it right. Mark Williams on our AJP PR7 impression says 170 kilometers to 4 gallons. Well, now you're going metric and imperial. You're screwing me up. He says freight trains do better than that. Well, okay. So I'm not doing your math, and you should use Google to answer your questions. 170 kilometers to 4 gallons.
4 gallons, yeah.
I don't know.
That's not very good. I mean,
but
if you do monkey math, go backwards.
125 miles a gallon.
So it's 80 miles. Yeah.
Yeah, roughly 25 miles a gallon if I do it. Quack Loud says, money doesn't always buy speed. People always find out that on a sport bike track. But this is an awesome video. He's complimenting Trevor, and I hate to do that. Can't believe I actually read that one. I should have skipped it because, no, I need to compliment Trevor to make him work harder on dirt bike test. So he doesn't do Vegas to Reno. He beat you.
Well, a lot of people beat us, and it was a humbling experience. Racers always have to manage their humility, and I've kind of done my thing, and yeah, and
I don't race anymore.
If I go way back, I found something about myself. I love to race, and even if I didn't prepare, I like to go out, and I'd get beat. And
right.
I live it and accept it.
Right.
And the guy that beat me would just be thrilled. Dude, he'd tell his friends, I beat Chuck's son. I kicked his ass. I'm glad to be able to contribute that.
Right.
Honestly, I'm okay with it. Some of the guys, nope, I got to maintain the standard. I'm not going to race because they're going to think this and that. And in regard to where people are at, whoever's doing it today and making it happen for themselves, they got game. And right. I respect that. And it's cool.
Yeah. I as a guy that doesn't race, I mean, I what I do is I go ride races. I mean, because I don't, if I go race and and it's been a while since I've done it, but I remember this is why I stopped, is that I don't care about what people think of how I did. When I get done racing and I don't do as well as I think I should have, and it's probably because I didn't prepare or wasn't training or all the things, right? And I'll throw in that maybe my bike wasn't that good, but I should have put that first. I mean,
what's last is your ability. Yeah. Certainly, that couldn't have been the case.
Yeah. So it was me. But so I get mad at myself. I get pissed. I mean, I kind of don't have fun. Because I put pressure on myself, and then I don't perform to my level, and I don't have fun. And so for me, if I go out there kind of in a competitive nature, I think it was maybe at one of the vet nationals or something, that I did. I rode, I think maybe when I just turned 40, I rode one. I was 41, 42, and I'm like, I'm a young vet, and I kind of knew which guys I kind of ran with, and everybody brings A game there, right? I mean, and I just showed up with I don't even know what it was. It was not the best laid plans. And I just remember hating myself. I was so pissed at how I did. I'm like, you got to quit doing this. But the cool thing about doing that race, it was a well prepped track, and I should have looked at all the positives. I got to battle with a lot of guys that that were always a little bit older than me, and I never got to race with them. And now I got to race with these guys, and since maybe they are a little bit older and slowing down, I'm a little bit more competitive. But who the hell was that guy? I mean, that guy was never fast when I was younger. Where did he come from? And so I get in this conundrum of not kind of enjoying it, and so I sort of, that's why I say I ride races. And if I'm lucky, because and you're the same way. You put so much investment into being able to ride to the level that we can ride at. And so it's time to reap the rewards. Like when I watch pro surfers just shred and just make waves look good, or snowboarders or skateboarders, or just guys that I know how much time they've put into their craft and they're doing things, and you're like, I want to do that so bad, and I'll go try, and then same thing, I can't, and it's like, oh, you haven't put the work in. So I'm trying to take that level of work I put on the motorcycle, and then I get to do the 125 race at Hangtown. And ride this perfectly prepped track and go ride around with a bunch of kids and a couple old dudes like me that got invited to it. And it's like, I'm not going to do any good.
Enjoy the experience that's been handed you.
Yeah.
Of course, preparation and doing everything would give you a better result. And we had a little bit of a discussion with Dick because he was, damn it, we came here to win. of course I did too. But I don't go into a dark abyss. We didn't win. I'm ready to put a bullet in my head. There's a few other experiences out of it
Yeah.
that I enjoyed,
Yeah.
that were amazing experience that I had.
Yeah.
So
and I would, it's, thinking about like, okay, I was going to hop in that Tenere and stuff. That was just like kind of a survival thing and more of a stunt kind of a thing. Okay, I can sort of go do this, but it wouldn't be like racing. And it's the same thing. Like I said, I want to go do that SRA Grand Prix. I just want to go there to ride. Cause like, where else are you going to ride on a watered track this time of year? A nice prepped, really fun, low key, and half the time, like, what bike am I taking? I'm a 125, and I'm going to go race against all the guys in the 50, 40 class, whatever it is. And I don't care.
yeah.
Half the time when we go do these things, I bring 2 or 3 test bikes, and I ride 2 laps on one, pull over, grab another bike, go ride, so I get DQ'd for switching bikes.
Well, the thing about 550 miles, dude, this is an organized trail ride with marked course. And nobody's going to go backwards on it. How cool is that? We can open this up. This is going to be fun.
Right. Yeah. You're exactly right. I mean,
And
that's the cool thing about something like, when you go to race, it's organized. There's a certain amount of safety there, things like this. And yeah, I like I said, I just know that even if I kind of don't want to race it, I might kind of pick it up for a lap or something like that, or battle, and I'll get mad because I didn't do as good as I thought I should. So, okay, Agnes Carpenter, PO1, on our Yamaha XT250 video says, Thompson, Edward, Davis, Karen, Robinson, Nancy. What does that mean? Is that like an acronym? I tried to figure that out, but it didn't work. Or is that his friends that he thinks should buy that bike? He's listing his friends.
It sounds kind of like a link, and it was put in the wrong place.
Yeah, at 2216 Sammy. He's talking about our 2025 Yamaha YZ450F first impression. It's up on Dirt Bike Test, our website. Thanks for the review. Sounds like Yamaha improved on an already stellar bike. Well, not that Yamaha sponsors this show or helps with Dirt Bike Test, but what did you expect? And on our Fox 13 Z400 says, great build on Scott Hoffman's 2025 Project 450 SR. Oh, here we go. This is where I love. At HVA Cog says, and it's on the Ultimate Vet bike. Is this the Ultimate Vet bike? So this is a bike that Jay over at Dirt Bike Channel built for us. Can you give me the part number for the header? So Jay, if you're listening, I know you lurk on this channel all the time. Guy needs the part number for the header. He can't find one. Dave at Pit Pro found the slip-on but no header. Which one fits a 350 24 XCF? Thank you so much. Should I go there and go look on the? I'll tell you why you can't find the part number, because you're looking on the FMF site, and currently FMF can only produce the power part for a certain number of years for the new bike. So if you have a 24, you need to go to the KTM dealer and go to the power parts thing, just like plastic companies cannot make plastic for KTMs anymore.
And I think those exhausts look so cool because they look like two-strokes now.
Oh, with the
big
Mega
blown
Bomb,
up, yeah, Mega Bomb, yeah.
Right. Have you ever done back-to-back with Mega Bomb, no Mega Bomb?
Not recently.
So it does work. That resonance chamber, it's called a Helmholtz chamber, is what that is. But those, for me, they help with the throttle response and the torque. Generally, the RPM lower than most people are comfortable riding, but I like them. I was putting them on a lot of bikes with the stock mufflers, because I didn't want the top end performance.
Dude, Emler is no joke. I mean,
yeah.
he if you ever sit down and talk to him, he doesn't drink anymore, but he'll still ramble about, man, he'll sit in there, they'll run dyno, and he's obsessed with making the best power delivery. I mean, it's cool. I've hung out with him in Mexico, and
I've been
dude.
I've been good friends with Donnie since I was like a 14-year-old kid, because my dad worked in a fire station just down the street when they were in Harbor City, and it was him and a like 3 guys back there, and it may have been Roost Factory at the time. He might have been in between FMF and had to come, but I think he just got FMF back, and so my dad went down there. He took me down there with him once, and him and my dad and Donnie are talking. He's probably trying to get a discount on a KX125 pipe. I'm climbing into his dumpster and pulling out like stuff, pieces of metal and cuts, and he's like, what's your kid doing? He's like, hey kid, get out of that trash can. What are you doing? I'm like, oh, I want to use this. I want to use that. And he's like, what are you going to do with that? I'm like, I'm going to put it on my XR80. I'm going to build this. I'm going to build that. And he's like looking at me like, okay, whatever. 2 years later or something, I run into him someplace, and he's like, oh, you're the kid that was crawling through my dumpster. He's like, what'd you do with that stuff? And I go, oh, come here and look at this. And I showed him my XR80, and I built something. And he's like, holy crap. 3 years later, I'm learning computer programming, and I'm sending him these things you could, it was on a cassette tape or a floppy disk, and it was a program where you could put like the stuff in it. It would design the pipe for you. But it wasn't just like the two-stroke tuner's handbook. It was like this third-year calculus crap that somehow I'd figured out, and it would do kind of what the SST pipes. Remember those? Yeah, it was putting an extra angle into the two-stroke expansion chamber that supposedly. And he's like, you're doing what?
Dude, there's a great book on the origination of two-strokes. It came out of East Germany. I'll have to look it up, but It's a good read.
Yeah. So
it's called Stealing Speed.
Really? It's a lot about road racing.
Of course, like DKWs,
Right.
And it was East Germany. The guy that was working on this and testing it created more horsepower and went into road racing. And it's fascinating about the different racers. And I won't give it away, but a Japanese company paid for the racer to
steal the bike.
Escape. He escaped East Germany.
Yeah.
And he continued to race for them without giving away the brands or anything, because they're not into that. True story. An amazing story.
So, Michael Yuza 883 says, excellent video, very informative and helpful on my JD Jetting Tuner Explained video. Thank you. I did the automatic reply. It was very nice. Said thank you for the response. And Yabba Dabba Do 72 on our Tech Talk Taco Tuesday 225 says, did Chuck wake up early and ride?
I woke up early.
Yeah, and you rode.
I rode.
Yeah.
But as a result of the experience, I didn't start.
It is nice sometimes, donkey or deer. Do you know this guy?
I don't know, but I've hit deer before. No, I don't know if he knows the story, but Dick and I are riding up out of Northern California. A deer crosses in front of him, and another one comes at, don't do it, and I clocked it with a KLR. Dude. And bike stood up, chopped the deer in half. My nose was touching the fender. Somehow I settled back down. I was ready to cartwheel over.
Yeah.
And I pull over, and I'm like, oh, it's drizzling. A lot of water's coming out of your bike. It bent the forks back on the KLR and obliterated the radiator and drained everything out. And we limped the thing out. Of course, it cooked the motor, but
yeah,
I'm lucky to be live. I used one of my non-lives on that one.
So if you're in the chat and you have a question, go ahead and get that up there, because we're going to start wrapping this exciting episode up. Chuck and I telling old racing stories. The SST pipe was fire, says Chris Dabney. I actually didn't like them. They were kind of peaky. So when like two strokes got power valves and it kind of spread the power out. It like somehow I think they were kind of playing on that, because there was a time when the power valve opens and it changes the way that the pipe works, and there's all this stuff. And that's what this computer program that I figured out how you put these numbers and these variables into it, and it would literally kind of give you the cone shapes and dimensions.
What's the feedback? It's the resonation that comes back,
right?
Which is an amazing story. It comes out in that book, and speaks to that. I was writing when they just started coming out with the power valve,
right?
And so we were going with good power by going with bigger CCs.
Right.
So the idea is you could create the bottom end with size.
Yeah. Just no replacement for displacement. And it was when it's kind of funny because now you think that how we've gone away from the 500s and back down to 300s, and I think just now they can run all this modeling and even just in riding it, it's once you start going bigger than 300 cc's, the two-stroke is kind of it doesn't rev like it should. Like I've ridden some of those Mako 700s and the these big giant two-strokes, and they rev to like 3,000 RPMs
and fall on their face.
Yeah, ton of torque, but it just doesn't. You need like 5 spark plugs and
Greg's kid was helping us chase.
Okay,
and he's like 28, and he got to be a good motocrosser, and he's qualified from events, nationals.
Yep,
and won points. And he was saying, I heard about this two strokes. I mean, how do they compare to the 450s today? The big bore. I heard you were on a big bore. I mean, is the roost the same? I said, dude, riders would come off the track bleeding on certain tracks because the 500, when they'd ignite and explode in the RPM, and they'd grip a part of the earth and unearth rocks and hurl them at you, you'd be actually bleeding. The smooth 450 power, it's still harmful, but it's not like a 500.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't have these spikes and bursts.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's violent.
the stock 500s that as they before they kind of went away, they were working on getting them smoother and smoother. And even when I rode some really good Eric Krippa tuned 500 CR 500s, called them Barkmasters, and it was all about how you can make more power but make it smoother over like a longer spread.
You got to be able to hang on to it.
Yeah.
We 40 plus 2 is what we used to do.
Right. Yeah.
And you got to be able to live.
Yeah, and everybody was like, I just want this thing to yank my arms out of a socket, and like you didn't have ignition switches back then. No, just go. You got to get a whole shot and then go. So, anyways, KX 500. I think I was always a CR 500 guy. Hey, I'll tell you, did you see that guy that I think he rode Ironman, or maybe he was up in Pro, but he had a KX 500?
Yeah.
That it had and I've never been a big fan of like the Electron or that smart carb and stuff. He had one of those on there. I've never heard a KX 500 that idled down and like it didn't go ding ding. It went bung 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 bung. It was all ratty. And then when I heard him coming at me, and it was a road where you could get the thing taped, it sounded like a 125. I mean, it was like super high PM screaming, and I'm like going, because we'd heard a KTM 300 come by. This thing was revving more than the 300, and I'm like, wow. And then he kind of came by and it goes ding ding ding, but it didn't do the ding like the. A
lot of friends of mine use the smart carb because we're up at elevation,
right? And
they use them on 300. They still love the carburetor.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got the.
You've evolved
the fuel injection. Well, I still love jetting the carburetor.
Yeah.
But dude, I ride with them and they work well. But when they get high mileage, I say, dude, you can't cheat it. Your bike is lean.
Right. Oh, you take
it's not free mileage. Now, maybe more efficient. It's dumping more when it shouldn't. Okay, I'll give you that. But at any rate, they work pretty good.
I haven't noticed a big difference. So anyways, this is like back to the smart carb thing. This thing ran awesome. I'm not a fan because for me they don't have enough hit. They're too smooth. And then they said, oh, well, you just got to kind of jet them and set them up. And I rode mostly ones that were set up just standard. That's the way they were delivered. The guy put them on the bike.
Hit is so much more about other things to me
on
the bike.
But even with the carb, it didn't have the response that Kaheen had, and like a Mikuni has too much of that kind of response. You know,
Okay.
it's a different character when you start thinking about it. But it like they're almost like I said, there just is the way the carb work. It's almost too smooth, and but when we go back to the fuel injection versus carbureted fuel mileage, I don't think that the fuel injection necessarily gets better mileage because it's fuel injected, other than it doesn't leak. Like when you bounce around, there's nothing coming out of the overflows. And we actually taped a bag on the overflow tubes of a carbureted bike to see how much was come out. You'd be surprised at how much ends up in that bag.
And we're always throwing our bike down and climbing over trees, and it's so awesome with fuelies.
Yeah.
You know,
They start up. You know, they don't flood. They don't flood. They don't drain.
Now the smart carbs, got to be careful. Sometimes you stop, they'll drain out. So you got to still, if you stop, lay your bike over, turn that fuel pack off because it'll drain out. You know. Yeah,
that's what they make kickstands for, Chuck.
Yeah, whatever.
So,
when you're on a hillside like we're riding, you can't put. A buddy of mine put his kickstand down. He put a rock under it. It gave way 20 feet over the edge. It took like an hour and ropes to get him back up.
Right.
So the safe thing,
lean it into
throw the bike into the hill, call it good.
Yeah,
your fancy kickstand,
lean it up against the tree.
We're riding gnarly shit up, in the Northwest. I can't say where.
Right. And we like to keep that. Yeah, it's just in the Northwest.
Yeah.
It's good. Or, so anyhow.
Pennsylvania someplace.
Yeah, I'd like to thank, if you're watching this thing, check out the screen that's behind our head. It had a couple of sponsors that used to be sponsors, but I'm sure they'll come back when we tell them about our new thing that we're going to be doing. That we're going to be doing hopefully real soon here. Hopefully working on it tomorrow. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, put them up in the chat and the comments. Even if you're watching this later, not live. If you're listening to it on a podcast, just yell at the stinking MP3 player. Yell at it when you don't agree with what we say, and I'm sure it'll get back to us somehow. So with that, everybody, we will see you out in the chair. Thanks, Chuck, for coming by.
Cheers. Good to be here. Awesome.
If you liked what you saw in this video, come check us out over at dirtbiketest.com on the webs. We have bike tests, product tests, a lot of fresh dirt, and you can even support us by clicking through our links. Hopefully, we'll see you out in the trail.